I would look to someone like BEAMA and look at the list of manufacturers and go, they're trusted. That database is essential.
What we invest in BEAMA is worth something to them.
Everybody has the same voice. The new breed of electricians go, we know who BEAMA are, and we provide that voice. You can't just willy-nilly change a material.
We still have to factor in the quality of those.
One of the core values is those technical committees.
Cheap products, and they just want the cheapest they could possibly get.
I started my career as design engineer. You've got to be at the table. How do you get to reach your net zero targets? The digital product passport will probably end up with like a QR code. You can scan that code. This is a dangerous product. What does that value mean? You spend tens of, maybe hundreds of thousands, millions on development.
What does the world look like for BEAMA in 3 years? What do you want? Welcome back to the GreenBrook Perfect Contact podcast. I've got Nick from BEAMA with us today. Nick, what is BEAMA?
Good to see you, Peter. So my name's Nick Hayler. I'm Director of Member Services and also Head of Building Electrical Systems at BEAMA, and we are the UK Trade Association for Energy Infrastructure and Systems. So that's covering an end-to-end. We've got 4 key sectors within BEAMA. That's the Building Electrical Systems, which you're part of.
Yep.
Electrical infrastructure, circuit protection, wire and accessories, cable management, panels, etc. We have energy network infrastructure, transmission, distribution. We have an electrical transport systems sector,
Yep.
EV, fleet, domestic style EVs as well. And we also have the new low carbon building solutions sector, which is a wide range of technologies from direct electric heating, heat pumps, smart meterings, consumer energy data, and a whole raft of smart building technologies. So from everything's electrical.
Yeah.
It covers a wide range.
I'm guessing at the moment there's quite a lot of change going on with regards to the electrical industry and all those sort of things with regards to standards and carbon and all those sort of things as well.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
We are accelerating electrification because that's where we need to be for 2050. There's a massive focus for us and our members on that. So, lots of change. And unfortunately, sometimes there isn't legislation. So that's where, as a trade association, we can start to steer standards, regulation, and even push the industry in a certain way to improve things like safety.
So, obviously, from a perspective of BEAMA members, what do BEAMA offer to its members, which obviously benefit being part of BEAMA?
Well, I found out a lot more. I've been with BEAMA for the 4th year this year, and I sat, like yourself, member side for many, many years. So I had a great experience on working on product standards. The members all collaborate as a community to develop, create and maintain product standards to improve safety as a key feature there. They also work on wiring regulations. So again, the UK wiring regulations, again, to just always tweaking, always making those improvements, building regulations. So that's core to what is Building Electrical Systems, your group.
Yeah.
But we have a whole host of other services we offer, and that's born out of what you as members need. It's your trade association, like we said earlier, so you determine that direction we're going in. We have digital services, so digital transformation is absolutely key at the moment. That links very heavily with the net zero service we launched last year, and we launched it a bit wider scope of that this week and now call it BEAMA 2050 Connected, and it was so popular with the members, and I'll explain a bit more about what it does, but we've expanded that for non-members. So wholesalers, so people like, the wholesalers can join, contract and associate. So it could be an association, could be an individual company.
The wholesalers,
this is all about net zero. So it's about how do you get to reach your net zero targets. You as a manufacturer have to be looking at embodied carbon of your products, but you also need to be looking at your scope 1 to 4 emissions about your factory and how you reduce those. All of that is coming into specification, and that is key for you. So there's a lot of topics around that. There's not really any qualifications for it. So what we have developed, we've invested, and we've got 2 people heading that up, that whole service. So we've got dedicated personnel for that. We have a platform on our website with a raft of information for you as manufacturers to dip in and out of as you see fit. We've created a community. We talk about the good, the bad and the ugly, because there are pitfalls in 2050, trying to reach 2050. So we are working as a manufacturing community to get there together. This is probably one of the first times I've ever seen manufacturers truly do that. They are all headed in the same direction.
Well, we talk about it a lot more than we ever used to, not obviously from my perspective, but obviously in the industry. I mean, is it a realistic goal to get to net zero? I don't know if it's possible or not, but I think from our perspective, what we're trying to do is work with BEAMA to make sure that we do things the right way, work with our suppliers in the manufacturing side of things. But obviously, like we've talked before, my bee in my bonnet is safety, and obviously making sure that the products that we sell to our wholesalers and contractors and developers are safe and tested. And I don't think everyone quite follows our mantra in getting that through.
No, I think that's let's say one of the core values with certainly building electrical systems in BEAMA is those technical committees, and they are working solidly throughout the year and over periods of time on creation of new standards, maintenance and development of existing ones. As a trade association, then those committees have a representative that represent the UK as a whole. Then they go into Europe and internationally. So we are, as a trade association, we're renowned for our expertise, and that's what you, as GreenBrook, and the other members bring to that table.
Yeah.
And again, it's creating that community. We've got to come to a consensus. It's not we say this and we say that. Everybody has the same voice. Doesn't matter if you're a micro, an SME, or a global corporate. Everybody in BEAMA has the same voice, and safety is the key. Is key to everybody in developing of those standards. Yeah,
and I've been up on it about it. I've talked about it quite a lot, and obviously I've always used the example that I think we value other things more than we value the safety of products, and it's getting that message for me as a manufacturer. It's getting that message to wholesalers. I think contractors kind of obviously get that side of things more, but obviously the people that we sell to, we want to get that message that what we invest in BEAMA is worth something to them, as opposed to just buying the cheapest possible product that you can buy.
Yeah, and I think that's what BEAMA members stand for. They commit, they pay for subscription. We're a not-for-profit trade association, but they pay for a subscription, and then they commit their time to attend all the various committee meetings and driving this forward. From a wholesaler perspective, if I was working in wholesaling, I would look to someone like BEAMA and look at the list of manufacturers and go, they're trusted.
Yeah,
they can be trusted. These are strong, dependent UK manufacturers with technical resource. They've often got their own labs. They have they're certifying their products. They're producing guidance with BEAMA guidance, which is all free. We're working with the wholesalers all the time, pushing out new guidance. So yeah, and same with the contractors as well. We've struggled to reach contractors in the past, and that end of the supply chain, but we're doing more on that on BEAMA. We invested last year heavily in a PR company to help us do that, similar to what you're doing with your podcast. We're trying to reach that new group of electricians coming in. It's essential that they know that we are here as a trade association. We represent all these manufacturers. We have standards. They develop product standards. They follow policy. If you want reassurance when in procurement, look to the BEAMA members.
So when you're pushing like new standards then, so what contractors, so how do you link the two? So you've got BEAMA, the manufacturer's body, looking at improving standards and safety and all those things. How do you get contractors on board with that? So you mentioned earlier contractors that you speak to. Is that through the ECA, through the NIC, IET? Who do you
we work closely with the EDA, so Electrical Distributors Association. We work with the ECA. We work with NAPIT, NIC, ESF, Select, BCA, LIA, all our other fellow trade associations. We've all got the same goal. We've all got our own expertise, but that we're all working towards that, and it's providing educational guides, bulletins, etc. Our stuff's all free. That's someone else. You're committing your financial investment in BEAMA. You're committing people's time and effort to BEAMA. We produce the guidance. It's out there for free for contractors to download and use.
Yeah, and that's great. And I know that we've started to use some of that literature in our own stuff that we're putting out, and own literature that we're putting out to different people in the industry, and obviously we want to use that to associate it to the products that we're selling. But it was just really from a perspective of, because as any manufacturer develops to get more demand creation through contractors, we want to be able to promote that we're a BEAMA member, and obviously that all the other BEAMA members offer something just that little bit more. And obviously we only sell to wholesalers, but we are spending time talking to contractors and talking to developers to bring it all together. And obviously from your perspective, I know we've spoken before about getting contractors on board with the stuff that you're doing. And that, to me, is really important.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I started my career as design engineer for a cable management company, and liaising with contractors. It's all right sitting in isolation, designing and manufacturing something, but unless you're talking to the people installing it and maintaining these items on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
So do you do like any seminars with, I know we spoke at the IET building once, but do you do seminars for contractors to see what BEAMA are doing? What do BEAMA do to promote the message?
We work through the whole supply chain. We do a lot with the wholesaler community. I'm always there working with Margaret and the team at EDA, attending their events, supporting their events, and open to providing educational seminars, etc. The contractors we've got to do a little bit more with. If most contractors, if you spoke to them, said who are BEAMA, not really sure, never heard of them. So and that's what we've been actively doing over the last 12 months. Social media presence, making sure our guides are pushed through the ECA, the NIC. We still have work to do in that area.
With the contractors? With
the contractors, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the wholesalers are quite engaging in with the EDA, obviously, and I know that I've spoken to Margaret many times about things that BEAMA are doing and what we want to do, and obviously from my perspective that's really, really important to tie it all in together. So how far up does BEAMA go? So you talk about obviously the EDA and talk about wholesalers. Do you lobby government as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We only touched on a couple of the services BEAMA offer. So I talked about net zero, digital, standardisation work. We have a statistics scheme, so it's voluntary for those members that want to contribute to statistical analysis. We have a lawyer. Our COO is lawyer, so we have a trade and those a solicitor looking at those sorts of things. We have a policy team, so it's key that we're engaging on all the relevant consultations that come out across the whole of BEAMA, across all the sectors, and we provide that voice. So our members, we collate that feedback, we get a consensus, we have one voice. So with over 200 members, that's a pretty powerful voice. And again, what we've done in the last 12 to 18 months is doing a lot more work with trying to engage with certainly the new governments. You've got ministers, all the new ministers, and we've got very good contacts with the civil servants in the various departments.
Right. So you talk to the housing secretary and all those sort of things with regards to what's coming down the line, I guess, with development.
Yeah, we're there to educate them. We're there to help them. Certainly civil servants come and go, they move in and around, and we're always saying, look, our door is open. If you want to find out about a technology, about a sector, we're here to help you do that and understand that. And it's not one manufacturer telling you that. It's like with the guidance, which is really important for wholesalers and contractors to understand. All of this information is from multiple sources, and they're all agreeing. That's very, very powerful, I think, certainly from a guidance perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And so are you seeing that the engagement with contractors is increasing? You're getting more?
Yeah. One of the things I started this year, we started the college connections with eFix, So the eFix team travel up and down the country, east, north, south, east, west, and I think they've got 12 colleges on their list. They are interacting with over 3,000 students over a period of a calendar year. And many manufacturers support that, and we're supporting that this year as BEAMA, and trying to get the new breed of electricians to go, we know who BEAMA are. They're a trusted source. We don't give away product, of course, but what we've done is produced a Fomex board is left at every college. It's pinned on their wall. It's got a QR code. It directly links them to a dedicated College Connections webpage on the BEAMA site, and they can see all the guidance bulletins they need absolutely free.
Oh, it's really
Students love free.
Yeah. Oh. So do you on the EDA boat?
EDA boat's always a good trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I noticed you do all the EDA, all the wholesaler events with a boat on the Thames.
That's right. Yeah, should be there in beginning of March.
I'll see
as
you
well.
there. Don't worry. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So no, I think the EDA do the things very, very well, and obviously, like I said before, I think that they've engaged with wholesale, with manufacturers much more, definitely. And I know that I spoke to Margaret, so the manufacturers were never really represented with the EDA before, because the EDA used to do that, and you had all the affiliates, but now the affiliates have a voice, which is John Chamberlain is involved in that and stuff like that. So that's quite good, because obviously we can give our message across to them. So me talking to you, and obviously then it does link it very, very well together, I think. And you know, for me, it is all about safety. As in, I still have my being and my body. About the guy that was chasing me for a price on an RCBO, and I've told this story, I put it on LinkedIn, I shouldn't have done, but when he was asking me for a price on RCBO, and he was pushing me for a life-saving device this is, and then as he's driving the car, he stops. I could hear he's obviously at a drive-through, and he buys a coffee and a muffin for like £9, doesn't blink an eyelid at one thing, and then comes back to me to try and get a life-saving device for less than £6.
I've used that story and recounted that, because that is an absolute corker. That is a perfect example. You know, we have this obsession in the UK of driving down. You know, it's all about price. Well, you get what you pay for. Let's be honest. Whether it's electrical products, tooling, clothing, all of these sort of things, you know, you have to invest. And yeah, be careful what you wish for sometimes.
Yeah, but I think people always drive price down, and I think they always regret it in the end, because I think everyone's bought cheap stuff, but you do regret it. And I think personally, people sometimes separate what they do in their personal life for what they do in their work life. Yeah. So in their work life, they want cheap products, and they just want the cheapest they could possibly get. But in their personal life, they're quite happy to pay more for stuff. And I don't think there should be a difference between the two.
You know, going back to your safety, you know, if you talk about circuit protection, consumer units, that's the heart of a home. Yeah. Absolute heart. You know, why would you scrimp? They're happy to go and spend £1,000 on the latest, thinnest, biggest television that they can sit there and watch every night. But that beating heart of the home, which is crucial to the safety of that building, your children, your pets, and everybody else who's visiting, often overlooked.
Yeah, I agree, totally. And I don't know why, but it is.
It's hidden.
Pardon?
It's hidden. It's a product that's hidden, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stuck in a cabinet, often out of the way. You know, it's not something you put on display. Maybe we should put more lights on them.
Yeah, that's why I always get the humpy off the bar, like a new dishwasher or a washing machine. It really winds me up, because it's not money, it's not real money, or it's not kind of just, it is hidden. But if you get a nice flashy telly, that's quite good, isn't it? But yeah, no. So from a perspective of moving forward, so obviously we lobby BEAMA lobby government. We're working with wholesalers and so. What can manufacturers do, or the members of BEAMA, to improve to get your message more across?
I think first off, it's interacting with BEAMA. You know, you've got to be at the table. Yeah. You know, I found that when I was a BEAMA member, you know, and I'd attend all the relevant meetings for my product sector. Sometimes you walk away with a nugget of information, sometimes not so much. But you were there. If you're at the table, you've got a voice. You know, yes, you get all the minutes afterwards, etc. But if you're actually at the meeting, engaging, you know, that's where the value is. So you need to be there. You need to be engaging. Consultations that come out. You know, if you've got a voice, let's hear that voice. Yeah. Put that down on paper. If you've got suggestions for the trade association in the direction you want to go in as well, our trade association, our board consists of 10 to 12 board members from across the various groups. So they are the manufacturers. Yeah. You know, as a director, I still have, with my team, my leadership team, we go to the board and say, these are the sorts of things that we consider, and they have to give us a nod. It's driven by the manufacturers. Yeah,
and I totally agree. And we're on sort of the start of that journey of pushing our, obviously we've gone through a lot of change, which is why we're doing this. You know, we're doing things to sort of modernise our brand and do those things. So from our perspective is, we're in the infancy of that, really, but we want to do things. But the one thing that I firmly believe in is, one of the things that we've done, and obviously one I've done, is push the people where we get our products from in the Far East. We monitor the factories. We're SEDEX members to make sure that the factories are audited, to make sure they do things the right way. But I do think that, from my perspective, and that's why we need the help of BEAMA, to police those products that are coming in that don't meet the standards.
And unfortunately, there's no legislation yet There will be, and then there will be secondary legislation. But yeah, at the moment, there's an influx of non-conforming product, primarily sold online.
Yeah.
You know, one of the groups we have at BEAMA is the Market Surveillance Support Initiative group, which you're part of as GreenBrook, as you know, and that's for. We'll have trade association, we'll have citizens' advice, we'll have members, we'll have all sorts of people come to us and say, look, we're concerned about this going on in this market. We had, for example, a consumer unit that was picked up on Amazon.
Right.
Okay, you could tell from the image it was non-compliant. It didn't comply with 61439. So I bought a couple of those. We agreed to purchase them. The members themselves invested again. They took their time and money. They tested them, and they've got often UCAS approved independent test houses.
Yeah.
We took that report. We had evidence. We have facts. We went to OPS and said, look, this is a dangerous product. It shouldn't be on that marketplace. They removed it. Which is great.
Yeah, really
but
good.
There's a lot of work to be done on that. A lot of work.
Was that an imported product?
That was an imported product.
Right.
And there's a lot of education for, and so I bought those myself direct from Amazon. So there's nothing to stop an electrician buying those, but you've got to get them used to your brands. You've got to get them used to that quality mark, what it means, educating them about the investments you make. You spend tens of, maybe hundreds of thousands, millions on development, testing. It's not for nothing.
No, I know. Yeah, but it needs to be appreciated.
It needs to be appreciated. It's very easy to look at two products side by side. That one's 20% cheaper. Oh, but hang on a minute. Why is it 20% cheaper?
Yeah.
Okay, it's got a flashy wrapper on it. But what's behind that? The test certificates. Check the test certificates. Do they mean what they say? Are they to the latest standards if they've got test certificates? What's the technical support like behind that product? Great, buy that product. But if there's an issue, when you phone up that manufacturer, what support are you getting from that manufacturer? That's really, really important.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than being on site and getting a dial tone that you can't get through, or you can only get through to on a chat bot on a website or something like that.
Yeah. Well, we all suffer from that. Yesterday, so everything I sent through to the chat would come back to you, and they never did. So it is difficult with those sort of things. And obviously, the digital side of the world is increasing massively, and I'm guessing that's another thing. That is huge, changing a lot.
One of our team sits on the UK Digital Product Passport Committee. BSI, we're pushing that. Europe are already pushing that as well, and they're experimenting in certain areas, not in electrical at the moment, but the Digital Product Passport will come.
What is that?
That will become, as you know, with a product, you have to put a lot. When a standard says you've got to put on manufacturer date, location it was manufactured, so UK, wherever. You might have a serial number. There's a whole host of other data. When you've got a small item, that can get very, very complex.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the instruction leaflet that goes with it gets thrown in the bin when it's installed. That's gone. The digital product passport will probably end up with like a QR code. You can scan that code on a product. Oof, you've got all the information you need. You've got all the sustainability information. You can have all the parameters, the dimensions, the electrical parameters based around that. You'll have direct access to the latest instructions from the manufacturer. It could contain a whole basket of information.
Yeah, I mean that's great, and obviously, so that's the EPD. Is that what we're talking about?
No, EPD is for the carbon side of things. So this is a digital product passport, but that would link to your EPDs. Again, vitally important. That's something else when you're picking products. Consumers, whether it's me as a homeowner or businesses, are starting to say, well, what about sustainability credentials? What are you doing as a business to reduce your carbon footprint? What are you doing with your products to reduce that? Now, we've talked about China, absolutely fine, but there are times when you think, actually, I could buy that from a different location. We're going to have CBAM, carbon border adjustment mechanism. That's being talked about in the UK. It's just been rolled out in the EU.
So what is that?
Good question.
Sorry.
That's not my area of expertise, but it's about applying effectively a tax on materials from outside of your region. You know, so if you can buy them locally, well, then you're not paying a tax on it. But if you buy that from outside of a certain region, then a tax would be applied to it.
Well, like a tariff.
A tariff, yeah, absolutely.
They've been talked about a little bit lately.
Yes.
Yeah. That's all I've heard about the last few weeks, tariffs. So and that would apply, you think, to people buying from China, people buying from India, those sort of areas?
It will apply to that. What we've got to be careful of is we don't want to penalise the manufacturer either, because there are certain materials you just cannot get. We're entirely island.
Yeah.
You know, we have to go abroad to get certain materials. So that needs to be, and that will be under consultation, and that'll be part of BEAMA. You'll get your opportunity as a BEAMA member to have your voice on the CBAM. There was a webinar we ran last week, actually. Andrew, COO, and Simon run that. And if you know,
my sustainability guy. So we've employed a sustainability guy.
Excellent. Yeah.
So he was part of GreenBrook early, but he changed his role sort of January time. So he's effectively just started. So he was on that webinar last week. So, and it's his job to make sure that, and he's working with the health and safety guys, working with our technical manager, our marketing team, to make sure that he kind of links all that together. I don't quite have all the, I don't go into the detail with those sort of things with him, but he's really good. And he's passionate about sustainability as well, which I think you've got to be.
I think, to have, and that's great, and that's often the case with these things, that you know, to get a sustainability expert, where do you go to look for somebody like this? It's often someone that's in that organisation has a passion about it. You know, they want to drive that forward. Give them that opportunity, and the resource we've got, we can help them, we can educate them, we can train them, and then they can work with other manufacturers to help you as an organisation.
We were lucky. He just done his degree, just sent an email saying, I just finished my degree in this. So it's like, where did that come from? It's like literally. So naturally, and obviously it followed me talking to you about those sort of things as well. So, you know, I think it's good to have him, and obviously with all the information that you offer to help and do those things. Again, what I would say is we've all got to do it, because it does add cost. So you start adding cost of technical and all those things. That's why I always talk about being appreciated, because I think if you're just looking at the price of something, but you're not looking at all the other things that make that it does make it difficult. And if someone doesn't care about compliance, who doesn't care about safety, doesn't care about sustainability, which there's a lot of those, then we haven't got hope in hell of competing against them.
No.
And that's where it becomes difficult. You know, we've gone through a lot of change, which we talked about with coming out of lighting and those sort of things. So we can concentrate on that key sector. But how do we police that?
That's OPSS, you know, is who we work with. But they have limited resources. It's improving, you know, with the Building Safety Act and now the Building Safety Regulator run by the HSE. That's all great news. But there's still a gap there, to be honest, on product safety. Like I say, with the new act on the metrology, Product Safety and Metrology Act, I think it's called, should be enacted this year. When that comes into play, then we're start looking at secondary legislation to help support manufacturers and, you know, the UK as a whole on all of this. Coming back to safety again, we see a lot about e-bike batteries, we see about chargers. You know, they're still electrical and electronic items, but it's the same problems as with our products. You know, that they get, because they're front and center, people see those. We talk about consumer units, we talk about cable management systems, we talk about panels. You know, those things they're bought and tucked out the way a bit.
I mean, it's easy to obviously the electronic products easy, but even like commodity items, we see those. We still have to factor in the quality of those to make sure that they're done the right way and all those sort of things. So when you talk about the product passports, are you saying that we haven't got that yet in the industry?
No, we haven't got that. It's been worked on. That'll be developed. You know, and as BEAMA, we're sitting there, and Tricia Massey, she's the chair of the BSI committee for that, and looking at and representing manufacturers. You know, so we will have a very clear insight into how that's developing. We will have a voice on that committee.
So when do you think that might? When do you think?
Oh, that'll take time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're not talking 6-12 months. This is going to take time. You know, Europe are ahead of the game, so we can look at them and, we have an opportunity post-Brexit. Let's not go there, but we do have an opportunity. Should we wish...
I don't know how long it's taken before Brexit was mentioned.
Should we want to diversify? I think, we don't quite like that. But if they've done it and it works, don't reinvent the wheel. And again, for manufacturers, let's try and not diversify too much. It costs money. If you've got to have a product that's CE marked, and it can be sold in Europe, and then there's there's different legislation, and then you've got to manufacture that product in a different manner and maybe different materials, the cost of manufacturers is huge.
Yeah, and labelling and all those sort of things, and making sure.
Again, we're a relatively small market. And we've got to be mindful of that.
Yeah, absolutely, in the scheme of things.
You talked about China, just going back to your China thing, and people think, they go to China to buy something. When it's done properly, and we were talking about this earlier, the investment you've done working with different people, different groups, that's got to be accounted for in the product as well. It's not just going online and going, that's cheap, we'll have that. We'll have 10,000, 100,000 of those, stick this label on it. That does happen, white labelling.
Absolutely.
But if you're doing it properly, that's time, money spent over there, working with the suppliers, the designers, locking down all those things. You can't just willy-nilly change a material.
No, but it's easy to do.
It's easy to do.
It's easy to go to China and get a product made and say, look, I want some of these made and I want exactly the same. It'll look identical and it'll have all. But where I think the BEAMA members would be different and where other manufacturers would be different who have the right mindset would be that we work with the manufacturers in the Far East. We have someone who tests the product, someone who looks at the products, follows that process all the way through and we test it in the UK as well. Yeah. And that's the thing that we've got to make sure that we do. Yep. But it is all those things add cost. And I say you got other people who you can easily get a product and say, I want something of those, I want 10,000 of those, and it would just come over and you just sell them. And all those other bits are not factored in. Yeah. And that's what that's why I want to work with BEAMA to make sure that we promote BEAMA to our wholesalers. Obviously, I know you're working with Margaret, but to say that we promote them through all our wholesalers, promote it on our website and really drive that message across that we're responsible and we want to do things the right way.
They've got a lot of responsibility in their procurement teams. I've been there when you're looking at buying in product and you get a certificate, great. Well, do you know what that certificate means? Have a look at that. Have a look at the origin. Do your due diligence on all of this because a lot of that's not done and you could fall foul of that. Manufacturers have responsibility. Distributors have a responsibility under law.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big challenges that we suffer is obviously the enormous amount of data that people want from us with regards to products, which is fine. But so what are BEAMA doing to help that? What do BEAMA do to support the requests for data?
We have a digital service and we've run that for many years because we noticed pre-Brexit and pre-COVID outbreak as well, the importance of digital data. So we have a service that runs a number of workshops. We build a community around that. We talk about the good, the bad and the ugly. There are pitfalls, etc. But what we want to do as a community, again, like Net Zero, is help each other move forward in the digital space. I worked previously in my previous company and you have to invest again money. You've got to have somebody that knows what they're doing. Yeah. Now, that could be a mixture of people. That can be, when it comes to data, you've got marketeers, you've got designers, you've got product managers. There's a whole raft of people to get involved in this. You need someone or a small team to administrate it, but then you need some software to help you manage that. We talk about PIM systems, product information management systems. There's a raft of those out there in the market. But that database is essential for the management and the support for a manufacturer to get that data out there. That software will allow you to store often imagery, videos, PDFs, live links to your data. So when you update your data anywhere in your organization, it's linked to the PIM. That PIM's updated, pushes that to your website, constant live up-to-date data. I had the same problem, and we've talked about this in the past, where customer would phone you up on a Monday morning and say, can I have all of this data? Right, great, okay. There's no format for it, so you sit there, you pump all of this information out, complex spreadsheet. Next day, maybe that afternoon, somebody else wants more data and it's in a different format and a different structure. You don't want that.
Yeah.
PIM allows you to structure and manage that data. But that's a heavy investment. You've got to find that team or that team of people to manage that as well.
Yeah. And I've noticed it's a heavy investment. I mean, sometimes I think with systems that we've had in the past is I never know which one is the right one to go with, because each one offers you like, oh, we've had this company then, that company in. And I know that we're a gold eData member. My marketing team spent a lot of work getting everything sorted for that. And it was a lot of work, months and months of preparation. And obviously, we do store all the data on our own website, and the new website will be much, much better. But obviously working with you on data, but it's just finding that right one. That
eData is a good example. It's a central source for all of those wholesalers. You know what it's like when you're trying to look for a product yourself. You don't want to be going through tens of websites trying to look for something. If you can go to one source, type in what you want, and then you're given a short list, and then you can cherry pick out of that. That's, and your PIM system can output to eData directly as well. So your PIM system's up to date, eData, again, up to date. So those wholesalers, again, have all of those product data sheets, all the imagery, all the data, all the parameters, sustainability parameters, dimensional parameters, electrical parameters. They have all of that to hand.
So every wholesaler has access to eData?
Yes.
Whether they're an EDA member or they've got to be an EDA member.
Yeah, they've got the EDA members have that free. Yeah,
right.
And as the manufacturers, they subscribe to this, and then there's steering groups to develop eData. It's all it's an ongoing process. The next thing is, and I've worked with Richard, Margaret, and the team is like, okay, how does sustainability data look in our database? What do we want in there? Could be packaging information.
Yeah,
it could be that embodied that key embodied carbon figure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's constantly evolving.
But what is it? Embodied carbon? How many people are actually really, really looking at that at this moment in time?
I think the problem is, like many buzzwords things, it's a tick. Some people use it as a tick box. I need to have sustainability information. Right, tick, yep, got that. What does that value mean? That's where education comes in. Again, our services, and our members are educated on that. They can then support the wholesalers and say, when you're looking for sustainability, this is actually what you're looking for. This is what an embodied carbon measurement looks like. These are the sources you get them from. Because that's vitally important. BIM was the same thing. Yeah. People, 10 or so years ago, I was working with my peers at BEAMA, sat on the other side of the table, developing product data templates. And we still do that to this day. And if we spent a lot of money on BIM. There's a lot of investment. Your CAD teams have got to redesign stuff. You've got to make these libraries available. Where do you store it? Whether you can store it on your website or a central hub somewhere else, great. But people were ticking boxes. I need your BIM library. Okay, what do you want out of I want it all. Really?
Yeah.
What, all 10,000 SKUs? Okay. And it's education. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and I think we're EcoVadis as well. Yeah. So we joined, we had our first EcoVadis a year ago. We've just submitted our second EcoVadis submission. We haven't had the results back yet, but I think when you look at what we updated onto our second, so the first, we were bronze on our first go, which I think is very good. We've updated so many more documents onto the next submission, but data is massive for us. And keeping on top of data is really, really challenging. So I guess having a central safe of data is what we really, really want. That links to the website, that links to Luckins, that links to all these things. Yeah. Which is obviously what we want, because it's easy to manage. But obviously, it's just when you've got loads and loads of products, it is difficult. Yeah. When you've got loads of SKUs.
Yeah. Some people have very few, and some people have hundreds of thousands. And it is difficult to manage. It's costly. Like I say, if you've got a decent PIM system, you can output that to Molt, you can output that to eData, you could output it to eTIM. There's a whole raft of other databases, but you've got that flexibility to do so. Yeah,
that's really, really good. So finally then, Nick, so what I'm trying to get to is, what does the world look like for BEAMA in 3 years? What do you want to change? If I give you 3 things that you want to change, not change, but how it all wants to be easy to use and simple. So
tighter and improved legislation on product safety to make sure we've got a level playing field. That's it. It's essential to all manufacturers. Digital product passports, which we've touched on already.
Yeah,
okay, that's going to be key, tying in the data, tying in sustainability.
It's 3 years. Do you think 3 years is a realistic goal for that?
Yeah, I would think so. There'd be trials on certain product markets, etc. But people will adopt these things sooner rather than later.
And that's a government thing, is it?
That'd be a government-led, yeah. There'd be standards for it, but there'd be pushes for it in legislation as well.
And then finally, you said about embodied carbon.
Embodied carbon. We've touched again on the measurement and presentation of that data on embodied carbon. We need one methodology to do that. So again, talking about level playing fields. So it's apples for apples.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's not always, and it's very difficult for maybe specifiers, contractors to go, well, I've got these two products and I've got these two values. If you take them on face value, I'll go with this one. Well, actually, it might be slightly different. So yeah, that'll be my third thing.
Yeah, and I think, do you know what? That's a good way to finish, a level play. And that, to be honest, as a manufacturer, that's all I want.
Yeah.
And I won't ever, never say who. I spoke to someone a while ago about compliance, and I phoned a manufacturer about compliance, and I said to him, "Who does your compliance?" And he was like, "Pardon?" And it was all done in the Far East. So it all went back to like China, but it didn't feature in all the things that we talked about, recently, all the tests that you have to do in the Far East to make sure those products come through well, all the things that we talked about, data, sustain, it was just about getting the cheapest product and selling it in the UK market. And that's the thing that I struggle with. But, hopefully doing things like this and doing things. So a level playing field is great.
Yeah. That's all we can ask for.
Yeah. Look, great. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate your time. Obviously, thanks for making the journey to come to the podcast.
No problem.
Thanks. We'll see you at the next edition of the GreenBrook Perfect Contact podcast. And thanks again.
Thank you.
Cheers, Nick.
Cheers. Thanks, Peter.